Hey, MotoAmerica fans, this is Paul Carruthers, and this is our weekly podcast, Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager for MotoAmerica, and this is like our 100 and something episode of this, which I find hard to believe, but we haven't even missed a week yet. So I'm going to introduce my co-host, Sean Bice, who's out in Ohio. I'm based in Southern California, where I'm about half an hour from the MotoAmerica offices. So, Sean, how are you back there today?
Good. Hey, Paul. We are. I might get hit by a lightning bolt here, but I think we're more dependable than the Postal Service. I mean, no storm, rain, gloom, and night. We have a podcast every week, no matter what. We don't mess around. We're very dependable.
Well, yeah, and we've been COVID free.
Yep.
I think the distancing between you and me is like 2,000 miles, so maybe that helps. That's
That
like
helps.
the ultimate social distancing. So we can't spread the germs. But yeah, so no, it's been amazing. I think it's really cool that we've done this many of them. Honestly, when we started out, obviously you're just thinking about starting out, and you're not thinking about farther than the next week down the road, and that's kind of how we're doing anyway. We're thinking of the next week down the road, and before you know it, we've got 100 and some weeks in our pockets. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great to be able to talk to all these guys. I mean, we've talked to everybody from, legend of our sport from the past to, current riders that have moved on. And it's been great. We've had a nice mix of all kinds of people. Well, of course, some of the team people like Stamboli last week was terrific. And, that's kind of cool about how Stamboli relates to, our guests this week. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Might as well let the cat out of the bag. Our guest this week is Jason Aguilar. And Jason had some exciting news this week wherein he announced that yesterday that he's going to be racing a Superbike next year in the MotoAmerica series in the 2020. Oh, I keep saying next year, but it's actually now in the 2021 championship. And it's cool. He's been, Jason's been with us from the very beginning. Looking back today, I'm like, my God, he must have been like 12 when he started, but he started riding for us in the stock 600 class, and he did that in 2015 and 2016, and then in 2017 moved to Supersport, where he's been ever since. The timing, I think, is perfect for him to make the move to Superbike. He's coming off his best Supersport season to date. He had 3 podiums and finished 4th in the championship. So I think I think it's a really cool deal. Obviously, the Superbike class is our premier class, and it's the one we push the hardest. And Jason's going to be supported this year by Riders Law, who's supported him here. I don't know, he can tell us, but I know the last few years anyway. And it's going to be a self-owned team. He's kind of using a Kyle Wyman model. And he's going to get some help from Attack Performance, which, as you tied in nicely, we had Stamboli on the show last week. So why don't we bring in Jason and have a little bit of a chat with him? Jason, you got to be excited.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm super stoked to be racing Superbike, and I'm stoked to be on the podcast with you guys.
How excited are you versus to how scared you are?
Honestly, I'm not really scared at all. I'm excited about it. It's a big step up, never even really riding 1,000 before. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the challenge. I'm not really scared at all, surprisingly.
Actually, Jason, you don't strike me as somebody that, I mean, you don't scare easily. Anytime I see you, seem to be pretty confident about what you're doing, whether it's on the track or, managing your team or everything that you have going. You sure don't ever look like you're all that nervous. So you seem to be pretty calm. Would you say that's the case? Your entire demeanor is that way?
I'm usually so busy that I don't have, even if I wanted to be scared, I don't have time because, between working a full-time job and then managing a race team and building the race bike and, finding sponsors and driving the rig to all the rounds and booking travel and all that good stuff. I usually don't have time to to think of much else. So, maybe it's a good thing because it doesn't give you time to be scared.
Jason, I want to ask you about, it's funny looking back at our Superstock 600 class. And when we're looking at it, and on our social media, we've been kind of going through the 2017 year, which you won the championship that year in Superstock 600. But it's funny to look at that because you were placing top 5 in Supersport. And, I can't really remember the difference between the bikes, except for the stock 600 bike had to be lower spec in some way. Can you refresh our memories as to how those bikes were different back then?
Yeah, so from what I recall, the Supersport bikes were allowed to have full data. I believe there's probably some internal engine changes that they were able to do that we weren't. Aside from full data, the Supersport bikes were on slick tires, so they started using that 180 rear, and we were still on the DOT tires, so we were on the 200 rear tire. And aside from that, I don't think there was really too much that was different. I mean, there's only so much you can kind of do to those bikes anyways within the rule spec. So aside from like data, the tires, and maybe some engine stuff, I'd say they were all pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Utah, and I mean, you did really well at Utah. You were in the top 5, and it was kind of like, I had to look and say, oh, wait a minute. He was in Superstock, and you were among those sport bikes. And that was, I'm pretty sure that was after, or maybe right on the cusp of when they changed that tire, because I remember it seemed to make such a difference in Garrett Gerloff's season, and kind of didn't, or had an effect on JD's season, although he's always said that wasn't it at all. So it's interesting with you on DOTs. You had some good results that year, of course, to win the championship in stock 600, but certainly in Supersport, you're right up with those guys. So that really shows your prowess on a 600. I mean, you've been a specialist on that middleweight bike for quite a long time.
Yeah, I was on the 600 for a while, and I got really used to it. And 2017 was just a great year for me. It's the first year running my own team, trying to figure everything out on my own, and it was a ton of work, but we were able to put in really good results, and it was nice having some more local rounds to us as well, because we had Sonoma, we had Utah, and Laguna Seca, so those are all, they might be 10 hours away, but it's like as local as we get. So it was super nice to have that, and yeah, we were up there in some of the races with the Supersport guys. I know when Beach and Gerloff crashed into each other, I had a chance to get a double podium, which would have been, the win in Superstock 600, and then also a podium in Supersport.
That's right.
And I kind of backed off a little bit just to make sure I can get the win in Superstock 600, no problem, because I was focused on the championship. But, I thought my crew chief Poncho was going to kill me, because he, after the race, he was like, you could have got a double podium. But, we're just messing around with each other, but it was good. It was a good year altogether.
So Jason, you've obviously, as you just mentioned, you've got some experience in running your own team as well as being the rider. From talking to Kyle Wyman quite often, would you agree that sometimes riding the bike's actually the easy part when you have a dual role like such that you have now?
Actually, yeah, I got to agree with that. Of course, riding and racing the bike is never an easy feat, but when you do it for so long, you get on the bike, it's just, kind of secondhand nature, and it's just you out there trying to figure it out. And, aside from that, everything else is complicated and, complex, and there's a ton of different things. And I would definitely agree with probably riding the bike to be one of the easiest parts of the whole team aspect.
Yeah, and like as you mentioned, it's something that you've been doing for a long time, and that part probably comes a little more natural than the business end of it. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, not a lot of people know that, some of our racers do have to have full-time jobs, and you're one of those racers that does that. Tell us a little bit about the job. At least you're fortunate in that your work is motorcycle related, so it's not like you're off you're not selling insurance during the week and then worrying about the motorcycles on the side. You can kind of maybe tie the things a little bit together. So tell us a little bit about what your job is full time.
Yeah, so I've been at FTECU, or Flash Tune, you can also call it, for it's almost going to be 5 years now, actually. So it's been a very long time. But, we do all the motorcycle electronic systems. We flash the ECUs, build wiring harnesses, and, I don't really have necessarily a job title. I'm kind of the jack of all trades there. I'll do anything from, some computer programming stuff to designing, to building wiring harnesses, to flashing ECUs, to customer support, phone calls, emails, orders, inventory, you name it. Just, anything that kind of needs to be done at that time, I could handle it after being there for so long. So it's great to be in the industry as well. I've met, a ton of great people. I've met sponsors through it. I definitely got to say that I probably wouldn't be in the same position I'm in racing wise now if it weren't for this job.
So Jason, I have a specific question for you about Flash Tune, and you're going to help me with this. Maybe you'll even help Paul with this. I don't know, but we here's what I need to know from you. Our technical director, James Morris, just left, and we've got a new guy. And that guy, I believe, works with you, and I don't know how to pronounce that guy's first or last name to save my life, and I've heard about 15 different variations of it. So please tell us, how do you pronounce that guy's name?
Are you talking about Teague?
Yes, yeah. Is it, so it's Teague? What's the last name? How do you pronounce that? I
believe it's just Teague Dane.
So I'm trying too hard is what you're saying.
Yeah, it seems harder than it really is.
Yeah, so, it's exactly how it sounds. Although I don't believe, Teague was part of FTECU Flash Tune for a while, but I believe that they haven't been partnered since I want to say 2016. I want to say 2015, 2016.
Okay. So no wonder you didn't know what I was talking about, because I wasn't really sure. But I'm glad
nobody knows whatever you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being perceptive, Jason, and realizing it was Teague Dane's name that I needed to figure out, because I'm probably going to be talking to him. I used to ask James about 30 questions every day of, not a technical nature. I was trying to figure something out, and he would try to explain it to me in layperson's terms. So now I'll have Teague Dane do that for me. But you, speaking of technical aptitude, I mean, obviously you have understanding Flash Tune and electronics on a bike. That's pretty heady stuff. How did you develop that knowledge over these years?
Just time. I just put time into it and just the work to figure it out. I started with the company not knowing anything. Yeah, I literally did not know a thing about reading data or flashing an ECU or computer programming or anything. And I'm just kind of the guy where I like to watch someone do it, and then I can do it myself and just kind of figure it out from there. So that's kind of always how I've learned everything, just kind of on the fly, messing around with stuff. That's how I learned everything at Flash Tune. That's how I kind of learned some of the programming. That's how I learned how to view my own data and understand it and all that stuff.
So because of your knowledge for there's moving up to Superbike, you got to know electronics, or at least somebody on your team has to know. And even to have a conversation with Richard Stamboli, you sort of have to know some of that too, which is why he doesn't really have too many conversations with me other than me grunting at him a couple times or something. But I have the technical aptitude. But because you know that stuff, did that influence you in any way to say, yeah, I can make the step up to Superbike? I can understand that stuff. Not only how to ride it, but understanding the data. Did that influence you?
I don't know. I wouldn't say it really influenced me too much. I'm going to have a ton of help from Richard Stamboli with the whole Magneti Morelli system, which is going to be amazing. He's going to help me a ton with, the electronics, the data and everything. So just that support alone is, that's priceless. It's hard to come by someone so willing to be able to just share everything that they have with you, no problem. So that's a huge step for us. He showed me some of the stuff in the software as well that I looked at, and it didn't look too bad. I was actually looking at some of it and saying this looks a little simpler than some of our flash tune stuff, which is kind of funny. But I wouldn't say it really influenced my decision too much. I was gonna go superbike racing no matter what. It's just it helps a little bit now because I can understand it and do more of it myself if I have to, rather than have to try to have someone else learn it.
Okay, Jason. Riding, you've already mentioned that this is going to be basically your first time racing a big bike, 1,000 compared to the 600s that you've spent most of your career on. What part of it do you think, without really knowing because you haven't done it, but what part of it do you think is going to be the most difficult? Is it the extra power? Is it the extra weight? Is it the electronics? I mean, or the competition, obviously, but what part of it seems the most difficult to you, at least now looking at it?
I think it's just going to be trying to gel with the bike a little bit better and just getting used to the feel of everything, where everything is, and probably just the additional weight of the bike, in fast S's like at Coda, or down the hill maybe at Road Atlanta, just things like that, because now everything's going to be different. I've had brake markers and turn-in points and all this stuff accumulated through the years of being on a 600 at certain tracks. And now all of a sudden I'm on a different bike and everything's going to change. So it's just going to be getting used to the bike is the main part. The competition, I would say, is definitely a little bit greater. It helps with Cameron Bobier going to Moto2 because he was, unstoppable the past few years. But I like I said, I just think it's going to be gelling with the bike.
Now you're a pretty small guy. I mean, you're obviously very fit. You mountain bike a lot, but you're light. Are you going to have to change the way you go about training in the off season? And also, is it going to take any kind of a different riding style than what you're used to, or do you not know that yet?
I don't really know that yet. There's some stuff training wise that I could do differently, that I'm going to try to kind of look into and expand on a little bit. I got a good trainer in my buddy named Ethan. He's helping me out quite a bit, and he's helped out, guys before like Cam Peterson last year and Michael Gilbert as well, Hunter Dunham. So he knows what he's doing. He comes from a background of all the sports stuff. So he's got a good plan for me. And as long as, I could find the time to get it done between the normal job and building the bike and everything, I think I'll be just fine.
Jason, as much as you're willing to, can you give us kind of a timeline leading into the season? I mean, obviously you haven't got the bike yet, or I don't think you do. So getting the bike, sitting on the bike, getting it sort of everything fit to you, probably going to test it at some point, ride it a little bit. And then, we're going to have a preseason test, the first round and all that. Can you kind of walk us through what you've got ahead of you from now until the beginning of our season?
Well, I have a ton of stuff ahead of me. I wish I can give you a detailed schedule because I would like to have one myself. But we're just we just gotta take it day by day. We gotta build the bike. We gotta get the parts in. We gotta get it all working well together, and then hopefully get out to get riding. We're not actually gonna take generally when you build the race bike, you take a stock bike and take all the stock stuff off, and then you just put the race stuff on it, turn it into whatever you need. Boom, you got a race bike. With a super bike, it's a lot different because the only stock parts that you're going to retain from a stock bike is the mainframe, the motor, the airbox, and the throttle bodies. That's about it. Aside from that, everything else is going to be aftermarket. So with that being the case, we didn't really see too much of a need to get a completely stock bike. So we're just going to build everything up from parts, get crate motors, get frames, airbox, throttle bodies. And then aside from that, I've got to get the swing arms coming, fork, shocks, custom gas tanks. The list is never ending on a super bike.
Is the bike being built at Attack Performance, number one? And number two, are you going to actually get your hands on one of those unbelievable Attack Performance swing arms for your bike? Or what are you using for a swing arm? Give us the scoop on that.
So the bike is being built by myself and Poncho, my crew chief Poncho, at his shop. So we're doing all that stuff. Richard's supplying us with, a lot of parts that we will need and a lot of, advice and all the technical support and everything. So the support that he's given us is epic for everything. But myself and Poncho, we're building the bikes ourselves in his shop. And then swing arm wise, I'm actually just going to run a Suter swing arm, which is the same swing arm that the Westby guys run.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's a piece. I know Matthews talked about that swing arm that Attack uses and how he'd kind of like to get his hands on that. But, the Suter is what Westby uses too. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, you riders seem to, you just want more and more. And I understand that you want the best to give you the best advantage you can out there on the track. So I get that, but it seems to be with regard to Attack, that swing arm that Richard has is something he seems to want to keep to himself. And I guess I don't blame him. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily just him wanting to keep the swing arm to himself. I mean, you also got to understand that there's, a ton of hours of machining work and, big pieces of billet that they have to get. And there's a big shortage when it comes to all those sorts of materials at this time. They have enough swing arms for themselves, but when it comes to getting quite a bit more made, it's not always, it's not entirely feasible. So their swing arm is very, very nice and very trick. It's kind of unobtainium, I would say, but I don't see why you can't make the Suter arm, work just the same.
Right. Now, when we talked the other day, Jason, you did mention that Kyle Wyman's been some help to you. If nothing else, a little bit of inspiration from somebody in the same paddock that's been doing the same thing for quite a while and also came from Supersport to run in his own Superbike team. And you also mentioned that Westby, who you just talked about, has also been very helpful. So talk a little bit about that and those guys' involvement and if they've been giving you a little bit of a push or kicking you in the direction of Superbike, or just knowing that they do it makes you feel like you can do it.
Yeah, I've been talking with Kyle Wyman for a while now, and I presented him with the idea of going Superbike. I was talking with him about it, everything about his program, how that works, just to get a better idea of what it looks like I'd be facing. And I did the same exact thing with Chuck Giacchetto from Westby. So Kyle Wyman's been great. Anything I need, anytime I ever got a question or anything, he's more than willing to answer it, give me the truth on anything. He might even have some parts trickling down from him that I'll get as well. So that'll help my program out a little bit. And then with Chuck Giacchetto and the Westby guys, they've been super helpful as well. Just like, Richard Samboli at Attack, just, he's on an R1 and they're more than willing to share any information they have with me. Any special parts they have, they're more than willing to get me. Any type of deals that they might get on something, they're more than willing to pass that along to me. And, when it comes to Superbike, there's so many aspects that I feel like most people probably wouldn't ever notice. There's just so many different things that go into building a bike and running a successful program. And it's just so much more complicated than Supersport or any of those other classes could be. So those guys have been really, really helpful in just helping me figure everything out. I mean, it's definitely not easy for me, but I definitely think I've had an easier time than most people would stepping up to Superbike just because of the support that I've had.
Jason, here's another interesting little side thing regarding, let me just start out by saying when I was younger, I used to play a little bit of tennis, not a ton, and I'm not very good at it, but I used to watch a lot of it on TV, and I always loved Bjorn Borg he used a wooden racket well after a lot of guys did, but I'm digressing. The other part I want to say is there were two other guys that were older at the time when I was a kid, but I used to love to watch them play, and it was Pancho Segura and Pancho Gonzalez. And because of the fact that it's you and your guy's name is Pancho Rangel, I love Pancho, and I wave to him all the time. I've actually never gone up and talked to him face to face, but he just seems like such a kindly, gentle soul. He seems to be a calming influence. He is even for me. Sometimes when I'm freaking out and walking around the paddock, I see him over there and I wave to him, and there's a calming influence for me. Is he a calm guy? And what does his mentorship mean to you? And how did you get to know Pancho in the beginning?
Yeah, so Pancho's a calm guy. He's really, what I like about him is he's really straightforward, and he'll tell it to you how it is, no matter, whether it's going to hurt your feelings or not. And sometimes that's the best way to tackle things. You gotta be told the truth, no matter, how it's going to affect you. So, but Pancho's been a great guy. He's been my crew chief since 2017. I've had him in 17, 19 and 20. So this is going to be his fourth year with me. And, I actually came to know him by a reference. So in 2017, when we were racing the Superstock 600 Championship, partway through the year, my crew chief at the time switched to go to M4 Suzuki. So that kind of left us in a bind, with no one to really turn to, still kind of being in the championship hunt. And, I was referenced to go talk with Pancho. So, I chatted with him about it. And, in 2017, he told me, he would come on board and he would help out. But he said, only if we're going to go win the championship. And I said, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously I want to win the championship, but I was like, okay, yeah, we're going to try, we'll see what happens. And, the first round that I had with Pancho, we did the double. I won both races at Utah. And then I won the race after at Laguna Seca. So I went from never winning a MotoAmerica race to, as soon as I got Pancho, I won 3 races in a row. And it definitely wasn't by chance. There's some really good stuff we were doing together. And, ever since then, we just have a great relationship. I mean, his shop is literally less than 10 minutes from my house, and I never even knew it was right there. That's not something you find. You find your crew chief randomly with a shop that's only 10 minutes from your house, and it's a world-class guy. So it's just, it's been amazing. I go over there pretty much every day after work. We shoot the shit, work on bikes, do whatever we got to do. And it's been an awesome relationship.
And Sean, what's kind of interesting is a friend of mine, Josh Merrill, is going to be helping.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be helping Jason this year. He's never actually done it before, as far as I know, but he's a pretty smart guy. Jason, just to let you know, excuse me, he's coming to my house on Sunday to do some electrical work in the bathroom. That I can figure out, but by me not figuring out, that's, the monkey next door couldn't figure it out. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. So he's coming on Sunday to try to figure out my electrical problem. And if he can do so, then I would go ahead and use him. But if he can't, I'd maybe think twice.
All right. Well, you let me know how he does then. Give me a full report.
Or if he electrocutes himself, then you won't have to make the decision. But yeah, I'll keep you on. I'll keep you up to date on that.
All right, that sounds good.
Hey, Jason, let's talk a little bit about your sponsor, Riders Law Racing, who Riders Law has been with you for several years. And you were, if not the first, you were one of the first to get support from them in the beginning. So you obviously know those guys pretty well. Talk about that relationship a little bit for us.
Yeah, so Riders Law has been with me since the 2017 season. They're with me 17 and then 19, 20. They've been with me every year that I've always ran my own team. And, those guys over there are awesome. I was definitely, the first guy to kind of be with them in 17, and then, you know, they expanded in 18, and then they came back to me for 19 and 20, and then obviously helping me out this year. And, you know, just all the guys there, you know, the main guys, Cy and Rob there, you know, I've known them ever since the 17 season. I have a great relationship with them, and they're big racing fans. You know, it obviously helps promote their business, but they're big racing fans. They enjoy it. They enjoy everything about it, and we just have a great relationship that I know anything I ever need, they're always going to be there for me. So it's really nice. It's really nice to have that as a title sponsor all the time, just to know that, you know, anything you need, they're always going to be there for you. And with the step up to Superbike, you know, same thing. Stepping up to Superbike, they're like, okay, you know, what do we have to do? Let's get it done.
All right, guys, I'm going to make a decision here that we're going to let Jason go back to work so he doesn't get fired. If he gets fired, then he won't have any backup plan. But Jason, I want to congratulate you on being able to put this together. I've been around racing a long time, and I know this isn't an easy thing to do, and you've been able to pull it off. And I'm confident that you guys, with a busy off season, will get everything sorted out the way you need it. And I think you'll surprise a lot of people with your results. There's no doubt that you know how to ride a motorcycle really well. And I think your style and the way you go about things will translate well to Superbike racing. So I wish you the best with that. And I know Sean's got a little sales job here, and then we'll cut you loose.
Yeah. So just for the fans that are listening, our MotoAmerica fans who are the best in the world and want to come and see our races this year, I just want to point out that if you go onto our website, MotoAmerica.com, and go to the schedule, there are links there where you can click on our to buy tickets for our rounds. We've got 10 rounds this year, and we just announced that our King of the Baggers schedule, and we're doing a 5-round series this year, going to a lot of well, all of our tracks are great, but a lot of the major tracks that we have, I mean, obviously Laguna Seca will be going back there, but Road America, and we'll get to see these bikes kind of in a different environment. We were pretty amazed to see them going down through the corkscrew, but now we're going to see what they can do on some of these other tracks, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, some of it, the dynamic might change a little bit because, you know, they're going for a little bit of longevity, and it'll be interesting to see what technically they have to do to kind of do a 5-race season rather than a 1-race invitational. But that's part of this year, and it was a big hit. So if you guys want to see that, and certainly see Jason Aguilar and the Hono Superbike riders out on the track, as well as our other classes, then the way to get going on that is to go on our website, look at our schedule, and it's real easy to click on the tickets links and buy them. So we hope to see you at the races coming up this year, and we're definitely going to see Jason. Thanks so much for being on with us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I'm thinking we might get Jason on a bagger before the year's over.
Yes.
He could actually get inside one of the bags and someone else could ride it.
That wouldn't be a good idea. If I tipped over, I would never get that thing up.
No. All right, guys, you guys have a good day, and we'll talk again soon.
Great.
Thank you.